Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And I may not be as gushing as the lady for the member for South Northamptonshire, but nevertheless, I think that the budget which we are looking at today was one which was delivered in a very difficult economic circumstance. We have had a plethora of figures thrown at us today, a plethora of initiatives, and it's always on the first day of a budget debate. It's always with some trepidation people make comment on the budget because, of course, once we start looking at the detail of the budget and some of the implications of the measures, then what appears to be something you could embrace with enthusiasm, you finish up being a bit embarrassed about. And sometimes chancellors have even found that this is the case, that things which they announce with a great euphoria they've had to retreat from fairly quickly. Nevertheless, I want to just on the general thrust of the budget. I think that the Chancellor, and I'm encouraged at the path which he has outlined. First of all, he believes that we have got to get the high levels of debt down to leave us not as vulnerable to interest rate changes in the future. I think that's good. Secondly, it's got to be done in the context as well of trying to get back to a lower demand on people's taxes. And again, that's good. As a party, we believe that people are far better and businesses are far better placed to decide how they spend their money than government. And thirdly, of course, when it comes to the money which we do spend in public service, and we're spending vast amounts, and he's going to spend vast amounts in the future, that must be spent wisely. And therefore, we must not be afraid to tackle the question of is money being wasted, and if it is being wasted, then stop spending it and change the direction. I also am pleased that he is wanting to reward people who are in work. And the fact that the national living wage is to increase is a good thing. The reduction in the taper for universal credit to encourage people to move from positions where they're not working or working in low-paid jobs to working in higher-paid jobs is good. But let's not forget, Mr. Deputy Speaker, there is still a marginal rate of 55% on people who are in that position. And therefore, there's still that disincentive. But I do worry that those people who are in low-paid jobs, and indeed even in medium-paid jobs, are going to face a rather bleak period in the near future. Whether it's with the tax rises already declared, whether it's the fact that we are already facing huge energy prices, energy increases, and I've got to say, while people have condemned it in this House, let's not forget that part of the reason for that is the climate hysteria that seems to have overtaken members in this House and the government itself. Because one of the reasons for higher energy bills is the fact that we are turning our back on cheaper fuels, and we are expecting people to heat their homes in more expensive ways. And of course, the Chancellor has already said that he has written to the Bank of England about the current inflation rate. Now, the only reason, of course, he would write to the Bank of England, he can't instruct them to put up interest rates, but if he is raising concerns about the current level of inflation, then the implication is that the Bank of England may well look at higher interest rates, and that, of course, will hit homeowners. So, whilst I welcome some of the incentives to get people into work, nevertheless, I believe that it is important that we don't ignore the fact that there are challenges ahead for people who, especially are in low-paid industries. Let me look at some of the specific things. And the Chancellor has made a big issue of the amount of money and additional money which is going to devolved administrations, an extra £1.6 billion per year to Northern Ireland. However, and that's a real increase. There's a real increase in expenditure in Northern Ireland of 1.3% over the period, on average, each year over that period. That's half of the increase which will go to Scotland. It's about 1.5 less than what will go to Wales, and it's about a third of the general increase in government spending. So while in real terms spending in Northern Ireland is going up, and I welcome that, relatively speaking, spending in Northern Ireland will be going down. And that at a time when the government is talking about levelling up, at a time when there are additional pressures on the Northern Ireland economy because of the Northern Ireland Protocol and the impact that has on industry. And I think that there has to be an explanation as to why, relatively speaking, Northern Ireland, expenditure in Northern Ireland will be less over this spending period than it is currently. If we look at some of the initiatives which have been undertaken under the Levelling Up agenda, I welcome the fact that £300,000 to be spent on our digital hub in my own constituency in Cushendall, and I already know from speaking to those who are involved in it how that's going to create jobs, good jobs, in a relatively poor rural area. The extra money for Dundonald Ice Bowl will be welcomed by my colleague in East Belfast. And, of course, the money which is going into the City Region deal will benefit massively some projects, capital projects in my own constituency, and I welcome all of that. In specific industries, the hospitality industry has taken a hammering. And the fact that the Chancellor has given and said that there will be a 50% discount on rates for the hospitality industry, I take it that there will be a Barnett consequential for Northern Ireland, and that is part of the Barnett consequentials, and I hope that it is replicated by the Finance Minister in Northern Ireland. One question I would like maybe to be responded to just at the end of this, and that is the changes in excise duty on alcohol, which will be important for the like of Diageo in my own constituency and the hospitality industry. Since Northern Ireland is part of the EU excise regime due to the Northern Ireland Protocol, will those changes apply to the taxation on alcohol in Northern Ireland? And it's a technical question, I don't know the answer to it, but it would be interesting for the Chancellor to come back to us on that. Mr Deputy Speaker, the Chancellor has been a steady hand and a tiller in the storms of the past. There are still economic storms for him to take the country through. We wish him all the best with it, but we will also be scrutinising the route that he takes as he seeks to guide the nation economically.
John